even 6 months later, after we got liquidated and the promises became complicated. So now I'm locking in for as long as it takes, dropping applications, grinding through the break. I'll bring some voices in to join me, open mics and open minds, no scripts, no sponsors, just the truth to find. We ain't selling supplements, but we're waking up the room, real talk on what's coming and what's already doomed. Cause there ain't no rest till I make it, until I close my eyes for good. Thank you for inviting me for the second round of interview. I see that you have a question already. Let me bring it up on the screen and we can discuss more about it. The time I overcame a challenge. Well, let's sit down for this. We're gonna need to unpack that question. Actually, we're gonna need to bring out the tablet. Existence, in a way, the probability of existence is so incomprehensibly small that when the chances of two people meeting, falling in love, and having a child together is about 1 in 20,000. From that, each human has roughly 70 trillion possible unique genetic combinations. And the chance for the exact sperm, so 1 in 300 million per ejaculation, and the exact egg, 1 in 100,000 eggs in a lifetime, is about 1 in 400 quadrillion. In addition to that, your ancestral chain, so each and every single person in your lineage, going back to 150,000 years, so about like 7,500 generations, makes the chances of a single person being born infinitesimally small. We're gonna have to write it down. We're gonna have to show the math for this. So it is about 1 in was it 1? So 10 to the power of 2,685,000 is the chances of you existing, you, me, anyone existing. And so, as a result, the most difficult challenge that I've overcome is existing. To put this into perspective, there are, 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the universe. So that means, according to what I have here written down, is that you can fit multiple universes inside each other. And in that way, so if every single atom in the universe was itself a universe, and every atom in these universes was also a universe, and you kept doing that 33 times, the total number of atoms still wouldn't come close to describing how unlikely you are. So based on that thought process, just the mere act of existence is a challenge that's overcome. That said, just existing isn't good enough, right? There needs to be something that you live for, something that you live by. And as a result, that concept that you live by today is what makes you, you. What are things that we live by, or we should live by? The idea is that we have to be what you believe. We all believe something. Me personally, I believe that everyone should feel safe. When looking at the current space in crypto, I don't feel safe. I don't feel safe in a setting where I can delegate responsibility for my funds to other entities, to smart contracts. How did it get this way? How did we create a structure where we can't feel safe in interacting with one of the most innovative technologies of our time? Looking at the different risks associated with the current situation right now shows that there has been a large security vulnerability that has occurred. Recently, USR has been minted, an unauthorized minting. And as a result of a compromised private key, at least that's what the latest information is. There could have been something more up to date, by the way, but as a result, we have many people that have commented that the curator industry is poorly designed because there's not actual curation happening. Just some incompetence and crooks with extremely malicious game theory pushing them to seek more risk in a sociopathic setup. We can do better. The default, the DeFi vault is the model of a future manager. When thinking about the vault as a system, we see that as a system where you can delegate responsibility of the management of your funds to an external entity. But how do we know that that external entity is performing the correct risk evaluations necessary for you to give them that trust? It was said quite nicely by James, where DeFi, you earn 1% below treasury bills and you lose all of your money one time a year. And then people say that, well, not all yield is that low, but obviously it always comes at a cost. And the cost is the risk that is involved in mitigating this system. We all have our different views on how risk should be managed. We all have our different views and ways of seeing opportunity in this space. That said, I don't think anybody goes into crypto or any venture on the premise that they want to lose their money. We have ways that front ends have been blocked. That said, in decentralized finance, you have a way to exit permissionlessly. For some systems, but which systems? Who is able to sustainably curate and delegate that risk? To know that your funds can be withdrawn and not ultimately paused indefinitely. Yield and DeFi is something that everyone is looking at. We see that as the golden goose and the gold run of sorts, where your money could be used to make more money. But it does come at a very big risk, because at the end of the day, you don't know how exposed you are. When looking at the different hacks that have occurred since the beginning of 2026, 137 million went poof. Only 9 million returned. This is something where putting any amount of money into any DeFi protocol is something where most people should have anxiety over. Does it have to be this way? Is risk something that just is bound to happen and there's no way to have any control over it? Are we just doomed to fight for yield generated from high risk, low reward ventures? I looked at this system, and my belief is that crypto is not a safe place to put your money. In fact, that is a big consensus over a lot of people if you talk to them one-on-one. Does it have to be this way? In the previous episode, I went over very briefly the concept of reviews and a review DAO. I gave it a lot of thought, and I decided to make it. To give a brief summary of what a review DAO is, we'll go onto the website. You would launch a specialized DAO for any industry: crypto, healthcare, finance, anything. But let's focus right now on the problem at hand: risk management. We have a lot of people commentating on risk. And risk that is essentially obvious when these types of things happen. But at the same time, there wasn't a lot of red flags before it happened. What if we can create a system where we understand what the exact risks are, create a group of people that all can agree on an evaluation and provide a review on whether or not any kind of DeFi application, vault, or any type of system is okay to use. Now, of course, taking on that kind of risk alone that's why nobody's a financial advisor. Well, I mean, nobody that, let's say, isn't a financial advisor. And I did put a disclaimer on this video saying nothing should be construed as financial advice. I don't want to be solely responsible for the risks that everyone is taking. That said, I do want to do something about it. So Audit Army comes with the simple premise of recruiting veteran reviewers, people who know what they're talking about, people who know what they are looking into, people who know the risks involved. We have projects. This could be anyone, external people. This could be, let's say, insurance underwriters. This could be anyone who has a vested interest in keeping people safe. The goal is these businesses submit audit requests. The DAO reviewers conduct audits, create reports. The DAO members all vote on it. And an approved review would then get sent to the entity requesting it. This type of system, let's say, does not exist, at least as far as I'm aware. There could have been many different types of variations of this system, but in terms of this holistically, we want to create a group where the best people deliver the best possible outcome in terms of their decisions. So how does a platform like this work? How does a platform like this function? I created a brief demo, of course, still a work in progress. This is hosted locally. The premise of this system is to be able to create a review DAO, invite contributors to this DAO, and then accept report requests, create a review, create an audit, and then finally send out those reports back to the people who requested them. How does the flow look like? The first thing is to actually create a review DAO. We will type in Vault DAO or Vault Review. VR, a Vault Review DAO. We will have one initial reviewer, which is myself. So as this DAO is being created, we see it being created. We now have access to our page that displays the information of the Vault Review DAO. This is of course, minimal viable product, but we are able to see what everyone sees, that this is a newly created DAO, and that you need to sign in to request an audit. So let's, from the manager point of view, sign in. As the creator, I'm able to see any pending requests for the reviews. From these pending requests, I can choose to approve them. Let's make a request as an external entity that wants a review. We will switch accounts to account 2, connect our wallet, and we see that we can request an audit. We can choose a specific file from here. So we'll go into our, I believe, our downloads test proposal. And we can give a bounty or a fee associated with it. We'll confirm the request. We have submitted our audit request. If we go back to the page, we can see that we have a pending assignment for the review that we just requested. We can see that we're waiting for this review to be assigned, and we can check the status of the review directly on this page. So now, as a DAO member, as a member looking to review a specific proposal, product, whatever it is, to provide feedback on it, I can go to another account, log in from the management wallet, and I see that there is an audit that has been requested, that it's pending, and that you can assign it to yourself, which I will do. We'll confirm this transaction. And right here, we have claimed the review. We have a total of 7 days, but this, again, can be dynamically changed. Or not again, I guess that's the first time I said it. But this can be dynamically changed. But the goal here is that you have a limited amount of time to accept it, to submit a review, and to get it fully complete. If you don't submit it within that time, then the money gets refunded. The money is located in an escrow contract, which upon successful submission, upon successful vote from the DAO for the review that is generated, we would then, the DAO would determine whether or not a specific review fundamentally matches with what they are, with their philosophy, business directions, etc. When looking at this system, the constant goal is to improve it to the degree where anybody can use it and anybody can review anything, including the individual DAOs themselves. We have layers of accountability within this structure. To give an example of what I mean by layers of accountability, it's tough to describe in the application itself. With a DAO, why DAOs don't work? We have been optimizing DAOs. Oh, wrong transition. There we go. We have been optimizing DAOs to spend less and less time performing governance operations. I remember a time when optimistic governance was being issued. Optimistic governance essentially is this. A proposal would be submitted, and if nobody objects, it is passed. When designing a system, and designing a system to make it easy for you to not care, the people that you attract will also not care. In an optimistic governance system, the ideal form is that nobody cares and proposals pass. When designing this particular system for Audit Army, I gave it some thought in what the best way, or what one of the best ways to coordinate people to care. Let's take a look at how Audit Army functions from the voting perspective. If in Audit Army, you have a group of people associated with the review DAO. This group of people so this DAO exists, and there are people that vote on the actual review. Let me just go review. So with this review, we have a system that every single person would have to vote unanimously. They would all have to approve it. Approve, approve, approve. If one person denies the review is denied. Now, this kind of system where one person can veto the entire review, the entire process, that's, let's say, unoptimal. One person can influence the decision of the entire group, which is, in a way, how things should be. When looking at just this, an organization will fundamentally fail. So as a result, how do we prevent this from how do we prevent the organization, or sorry, how do we prevent this from happening and the organization coming to a standstill and never approving any reviews? Well, these people that have agreed to approve the review and one person that didn't, the goal of this DAO would be to pass reviews. If one person disagrees, that means that that person needs a reason for disagreeing. If that reason for disagreeing is illogical and has no basis and they just disagree to disagree, should they be part of that DAO? Not me to decide, it's up to the DAO. But how Audit Army is designed is that we have a majority of people what they can do is they can vote the person that is preventing a unanimous decision, they can vote them out. With a simple majority, a single group of people can decide who to kick out from the DAO. In that way, the person that disagrees with the decision of a review is ultimately asking themselves this question: is this worth, is my assessment and final conclusion worth the chance of me being kicked off? That said, if the majority of the reviewers all agree with the assessment and it's just one person preventing it, likely the person that's preventing it isn't a good fit for that DAO. As a result of this system, we will see more speciality, more bias, more evaluations, and everyone in this system is keeping each other accountable for it. The person that disagrees with the decision of the DAO, or with the decision that everyone else made, could see something that everyone else misses. So it's still very important to have a person that is able to disagree for a good reason. So the system with Audit Army is this: a review needs to be approved unanimously in order to pass. Each member in the DAO can be booted off by a simple majority. That way, the view that is represented of the DAO will always be conclusive. Either everyone agrees or the review is never published. And as a result, the cut that is that the reviewer would make is no longer is no longer theirs, essentially. So the DAO needs to act in its own self-interest because they need to maintain quality of the individual members. The DAO also needs to maintain its own individual members' self-interest, that they are paid for the work that they do. The DAO also needs to consider the overall direction on how it wants to process reviews. If a DAO exists that approves every review that is sent, maybe that DAO isn't the one to take evaluations for. Or maybe it is. Maybe someone can create a DAO overseeing the operations of other DAOs. The goal here is simple. I want to create a system where I can determine conclusive results, conclusive judgments of people that might not be in the same room. I know that if you are not participating in a system that is giving quality reviews, and the DAO cares about the reviews that it produces, then that person will not last long in that system. Going back to the application itself, we have the single person assigned to do the review. We also have the ability to self-assign. This system is not the only system that can be used in order to assign work to individuals. For example, if a member is not experienced, they should not be managing a review that will be likely taken on by a DAO partner of sorts. As a result, work can be allocated to junior members of the team by senior members of the team. This is how most consulting companies operate, where important clients would get special treatment and have special people assigned to them, versus less important clients, well, would get allocated to consultants that don't have as much impact within the organization. For now, they can work. They can work and establish their reputation. And the more reviews that you accomplish, the more your work history is tied to the quality that you produce. You being a part of multiple DAOs that would accept the work that is being sent builds up your reputation. So as a result, every review that you ever do as an individual, even if you work for 1 DAO or 50 DAOs, ends up being beneficial for you, assuming that the DAOs approve your review that you do. This makes every decision and every action intentional, based on who you are a part of in your DAO, who is present as part of your DAO, who you as the reviewer, how much effort you put in to the reviews that you do, as well as the market demand for this service. Because there always has to be a client that is requesting this review. The auditors that are present in every DAO are constantly being audited. The system of layered accountability, where everyone is involved with everything. My goal is to make this product transparent, something that's easy to understand and easy to use. In addition, why this system could not work without crypto. For the simple reason that escrow is another form of trust. You trust the escrow service delivering the funds to whoever it is. In this system, you trust the distribution mechanism. And the distribution system is as follows. The distribution timeline of this system is as follows. The audit is requested at this stage. The audit deadline is at this stage. The review at any point during the start stage and end stage, if at any point the review is not accepted by anyone, the money would get fully refunded. That means that the DAO is not active, that the members are not active, that you would essentially get, you as the client would get your money back. Now, let's say the DAO does accept your proposal, your request for review. Well, then it gets accepted and delegated to a specific address or to a specific person, a member of the DAO. Next, the DAO member would submit the review to the DAO. The DAO members would vote on the submission. If the vote is not unanimous, a decision is made. Do we want to proceed with a resubmission, or do we want to vote out one of the DAO members that has not agreed with this decision? Based on the choice here, let's say a resubmission. Let's say we're not going into the intensities of this type of system. We're just going to go towards the happy path of a resubmission. So a resubmission is made. And as a result, a revote is cast. After this revote, the DAO approves, and the review would then be, the distribution would be that the 80% of funds would go to the reviewer that submitted the review, and the DAO would collect 20% of the revenue. And the actual requester would receive the review that was requested. This system is, of course, still in development. My goal is that to create a product that works. And as a result of this system, as a result of 2 days of vibe coding, I have architected a system where the optimization of this is to make it so that anybody can run their own version of Audit Army that can be specialized for different purposes. I don't consider that Audit Army is a single one and done platform. I consider it as one step in the process of making the world more accountable and making, as a result, making the world safer. I believe that everyone should feel safe. In the same way that I believe everyone has overcame the most difficult part of anything, the most unlikely event, that you exist. And your existence is so improbable that everything else is your legacy, your impact. Before I end this, I want to leave you with a thank you for the